Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to Black Ops 3 In Depth. In today's episode, we're going to be reviewing the Gorgon, which is not the mythological monster you're probably thinking about, but the two-shot kill light machine gun in Black Ops 3. This is a beast of a weapon. This is one of the weapons that the pros initially wanted banned. This is one of the weapons that was initially considered way overpowered and the community backlashed against. And I'm not going to lie, it's a very strong weapon, so let's talk about its strongest and best attribute first, which is its pretty ridiculous damage. It'll deal 50 damage up close, and at super long ranges it'll decrease 1 point all the way down to big whoop 49 damage, and this is extremely high damage. It's most notably extremely high because that means it's either going to take 2 or 3 shots to kill depending on how far away you are from the enemy, but it's almost always going to be 2 shots to kill. This is considered 2 shots almost anywhere because, like the other light machine guns, the range is absurd. The 2-shot kill range on the Gorgon is 127 meters, which is basically the whole map, so for all intents and purposes you can assume that the Gorgon is always going to 2-shot kill your enemies unless they're behind a wall or something, and that makes this weapon extremely powerful. That is the bread and butter of the Gorgon. That is the best part about this weapon. That's why it feels overpowered. That's why it feels like it melts people quickly, and that's why it feels good in your hands when you shred through people. Unfortunately, it does have a lot of downsides to go with that very high damage. One of the ones I'd like to point out is a less obvious one. If you run a silencer on the Gorgon, it cuts range by 90%, so my advice to you is to never run a silencer because that completely ruins everything good about this weapon and makes it garbage tier. So yeah, always keep it silencer free. We definitely do not want to be running a silencer. The headshot multiplier is 1.1x, which means it's only useful at super long ranges. Like, it doesn't help you with the 50 damage because it's still a 2-shot kill, and yeah, I suppose if you get a headshot at long range, that'll make it a 2-shot kill instead of 3, but the distances are so far, it'll almost never matter, and I would tell you to never go for headshots unless you're hunting camos. A lot of weapons in this game are useless with headshots. Rate of fire is another major weakness on this gun. Anybody that's used this has noticed the rate of fire is quite slow right off the bat, and that rate of fire is 327 rounds per minute, making it the slowest in-class rate of fire, and super slow in general. That, if I'm not mistaken, is approximately the same as the Sheiva or something like the Drakon. It's very slow, especially for a fully automatic weapon, and especially for a weapon that's designed for suppressing fire or LMG style play. It's just absurdly slow. People can just like step out of the way of your shots and miss them. It's so slow, so do keep that in mind. However, despite having a really slow rate of fire, the damage really makes up for it, and it has a very fast time to kill if you don't miss. It has no variation over range because it's 2-shot kills almost everywhere, but if you don't miss, if you hit both of those shots in a row, it always kills very quickly. However, because it shoots so slow, with each shot that you miss, your time to kill jumps up exponentially. It's just huge increases. So it's very punishing if you miss, if you spray and pray, and if you can't control your aim. However, if you are accurate, it's very rewarding, and it will always kill very quickly and outperform any other light machine gun and most of the other guns in the game in general. Magazine size is 40, extended mags will bump that up to 56. Normally I would say this is a small magazine, especially for a light machine gun. It's more like an AR or SMG, but considering the fact that it takes 2 shots to kill, that's more than enough magazine. I mean, you can realistically kill 20 people before you have to reload, so you won't be reloading this one a whole lot unless you just go a little bit spray heavy with it. Magazine size is just fine, and iron sights are okay-ish, but optics are preferred. I would like to poo-poo on the iron sights because they have that big obstructive foresight, but the center area is mostly hollow and it's got a tiny little red front sight so that I can very easily acquire targets and aim fairly accurately. Like, I would want to dump on them, but they're not that bad. They're actually kind of usable, at least on small maps. Maybe like on a big map you'd need an optics, but I generally just like optics on this weapon because it's such a precision weapon. Thankfully, it has almost 0 recoil, but I do sometimes use a grip for ultra long range. Like, it doesn't kick very much at all, but the weapon is so dependent on you getting those back-to-back shots. Sometimes I run a grip on it just because I want want to make it a laser. If you guys have better aim than me, if you have better recoil control than me, then you probably won't need a grip, but it's not the worst attachment on the weapon. And I'm going to say the hipfire spread is poor, which is the same as all the other LMGs. Like, all the LMGs have bad hipfire spread, right? But this one is worse, and I'm going to tell you to avoid hipfiring at all costs because it shoots so slow. Like, you could sit there and hipfire people all day and sometimes not hit any of the bullets. Like, it's just, your odds are worse with lower rate of fire, so do tend to avoid that. Don't hipfire unless you're absolutely desperate. Thankfully, it has the same base movement speed as other assault rifles. That's a good thing, no complaints there. Unfortunately, it has the slowest ADS move speed in the LMG class, and possibly maybe in the entire game except sniper rifles. It's brutally slow. So, you know, we all know that LMGs have slow handling, right? We all know that they sidestep slowly when you aim down sights, but the Gorgon is by far the slowest in the class. It's really, really slow strafe speed, really slow move speed, just really slow in general, and it's going to make it handle poorly and feel poor. Aim down sights time is also very poor at 550 milliseconds, giving this the slowest aim down sights time in the entire game. This is slower than the SVG 100 sniper rifle. This is slower than any sniper rifle. This is slower than some sniper rifles and assault rifles like combined if you had ADS on both of them in sequence. This is extremely, extremely slow aim down sights time, which makes this a terrible weapon for snap aiming or close range target acquisition. So I'm going to very much so recommend that you distance yourself from your opponent. Because of that, and similar to the last episode, I think quick draw and stock are essential unless you like moving at turtle speed. So in the last episode we talked about the Dingo ADSing fast and sidestepping fast, and I put these two on there to make that better. This one, the aim down sights time is so bad and the aim down sights movement speed is so slow, you pretty much have to have quick draw and stock to even be remotely mobile or functional in Black Ops 3 because it's a movement heavy game. So almost always you want to have those attachments on. Reload speed is 7 seconds. It's more or less average for the class, but slow in general. Definitely not fast. Make sure you're somewhere safe when you start reloading. Thankfully, this is the first LMG we're going to review that has a high wall penetration factor, making it very easy to wallbang with, and considering the fact that it has high base damage, it's even easier to wallbang with. Matter of fact, this is probably my favorite gun in the game to go for wallbangs or to over-penetrate objects, and because of that, it's not so bad with FMJ. Like, I don't recommend FMJ on a lot of guns, but I would recommend FMJ on the Gorgon because then you can really chew through people and wreck them on the other side of the wall. So do keep that in mind when you're building your class. And now we're moving toward the end of the episode where I talk about my opinions and a little bit less on facts. And I feel that the Gorgon is basically a fully automatic DMR. If you think about this weapon like a light machine gun, you probably won't play it right because it's really not a true light machine gun. It doesn't fire fast enough to have suppressing fire. It's not very mobile at all. It's basically a DMR that you can go full auto with. Like, most DMRs will 2-shot kill or 3 at super long range, so it really fits into that category. It's a lot like the Sheiva in a lot of ways, except you trade fully auto fire for really dumpy handling, so just don't think of it like an LMG. However, despite the fact that it has all these bad attributes, the Gorgon is super, super powerful when played defensively and at long range. I think this is the best long-range light machine gun in the entire game, one of the best long-range weapons in the game, and it's a god-tier weapon when you play defensively. When you set up and you're already aimed down sights and you're camped behind a head glitch and you're watching an objective, you can murder people, especially when you have optics and you can see them at long range. It's 2-shot across the map. You can't complain about that. It performs extremely, extremely strong in these scenarios, and that's why the pros kind of wanted to ban it, because they thought that people could anchor down spawns and lock objectives too hard and that you couldn't break that Gorgon lockdown. However, after some nerfs, and even before the nerfs, the Gorgon is pretty much garbage if you miss 1 to 2 shots. Every single time you miss a shot, the time to kill just jumps dramatically, and even though it is an LMG, it's all about being precise with this weapon. The better your aim, the better this is going to perform for you, and that's truer more for this one than any other weapon in the game. And if you're missing more than 2 shots when you're aiming at somebody, the gun's just straight garbage. It's not good. And it also has a lot of really bad handling attributes that make it brutally slow in almost any situation. It's terrible up close. It's terrible for peeking around corners. It's terrible for snap aiming on targets. It's terrible at reloading or doing almost anything that has to do with movement. When you play with the Gorgon, you basically need to pretend that you are a sentry turret and you just pick yourself up and move yourself around because that's how the weapon plays, and you really don't want to get close to people because you're going to get massacred in close quarters combat. Pretty much every single... I would actually take a sniper rifle like the Drakon over the Gorgon in close close range combat because it's just straight garbage. As for what I think this weapon is best with, I'm going to recommend you a very simple and very straightforward light machine gun class. Flak Jacket, of course. You definitely want to run something maybe like Tac Mask. That's a very good one, though I didn't put it on here. I don't run that quite as much in pubs, but if you're doing competitive, it'll be very important for you. QUICKDRAW and stock to make your handling not garbage, and optics to give yourself extra precision. It's whatever optics you want, man. I have a tendency to go for BOA or Recon in this particular weapon, but you can do any optical attachments you want. On the smaller maps, of course, you don't need them, but you don't really want to be using the Gorgon on small maps anyway. As for what specialist you should use, I'm going to tell you anything that's defensive, any defensive specialist. If you want to run rejack, if you want to run kinetic armor, if you want to run glitch or anything like that, anything that gives you extra defensive power with the Gorgon is going to be the way to go, because you're not going to be able to get much benefit out of any sort of offensive specialist. Guys, that is all for this episode of In Depth. I hope that you've enjoyed it. I hope that you learned something useful. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. The previous episode was on the Dingo LMG, and in the next episode, we're going to be rounding out LMGs with the 48 Dredge. Drifter out.